So welcome to the Museum of the Waxhaws on this auspicious day to celebrate our 250th anniversary with sights and sounds of the time period of the 18th century. So what we're going to talk about here is this cannon, this artillery piece. In the 18th century, cannons were known by the weight of the cannonball that they fired. So I have a cannonball here. This cannon is a 3-pounder. So it fires a 3-pound cannonball. These cannonballs were solid cast iron. They did not explode out of cannons. There were exploding shells back then. They were fired out of mortars or howitzers, which looked similar to a cannon. They were on a field carriage with wheels, but they would fire the exploding shells with fuses. But these cannons, solid shot, 3 pounds, that's all the bigger it is. Of course, they had cannonballs up to 24-pounders on ships and in forts and siege guns. But this single cannonball, while this will go a maximum range around about a mile out of this cannon at max elevation with the max powder charge, not going to do a lot of damage, especially to a fort or a brick building or anything like that. These smaller cannons, such as this, were used on the battlefield against enemy infantry. So one cannonball, well, I could fire this at a long range, is not going to take out too many enemy infantry. So for that, I'm going to take the same 3 pounds of cast iron and I'm going to split it into a bunch of smaller balls. And I'm going to put it in this round, which is called quilted grape shot. So we have a wooden bottom inside of this bag with a wooden dowel through the middle to help stabilize the balls. We bring up the bag, put the balls in there, and we quilt it with string. Keeps it all nice and compact so we can load it down the cannon easier. Quilted grape shot. It's probably no surprise why it's called grape shot. So when you fire this out of this cannon at enemy infantry, these spread out like a big shotgun. I have a lot better chance of hitting enemy infantry with this round. This won't go a mile, so at about 600 yards or less, I'm going to fire grape shot. To great effect. It'll spread out 30-40 yards left, right, up, down. Another way to package this grape shot is to put it in a can. This takes a long time to make. This does not. So this is easier to make, takes less time. We can take that same amount of balls, put them in the can. It's either called canister or a case shot. Interchangeable terms back then. Canister became more popular after the Revolutionary War, but case shot would be another word. But if I didn't have these small round balls, anything I put in this can is going to come out. So I don't have to have the small round balls. I can put rocks in here. I can put glass or nails. Anything that's going to be in the can is going to come out. When the cannon fires, the can splits apart and everything spreads out. So the loading and firing process of a cannon. This box back here was going to represent our powder magazine, so the powder is kept away from the cannon, usually at least double this distance, but I got a hill here, so we kept it here. So all the gunpowder, ideally we're going to pre-measure the powder. A full charge is 8 ounces, which would be about the size of this bag. It's kept in flannel bags or linen bags. We'll pre-measure 8 ounces, 6 ounces, 4 ounces, whatever the range we need to fire. When we're using grape shot on the battlefield, we're only firing at 600 or less yards. We may only have to use 2 or 3 ounces to get the same effect. So the powder's back here in these bags. That'll be important when I talk about the loading process. We have a crew of 6. 5 that will fire the gun and operate the gun, plus a gun commander. One will be back here with the powder magazine. We've got 2 in the front of the wheels, and we have 2 behind the wheels. So the 2 in the front of the wheels handle the muzzle end. The front left position is going to be the first position to operate the gun. They have a tool implement called a wad hook or a worm. It kind of has a corkscrew on the end. The gunpowder's in these bags. Sometimes we use wadding, which would be kind of, tow or fibers, something like that. We want to make sure the barrel is clear of anything that's in there. Any remaining bag will tend to smolder and have sparks and flames. So we want to pull as much of that out as we can. The next step in the front right position has a 2-ended implement. One side has a wet sponge. So the whole idea is to put out smoldering bags, sparks, anything like that. We're going to take that wet sponge, it's going to go down the barrel. Before we do that, The back right position is the priming position. The touch hole at the back of the cannon where we light it from, they're going to cover that touch hole with their thumb with a leather piece on their thumb to protect it from heat and hot gases. Then the sponge will go down, and when they pull it out, did you hear that thump? Yeah. Now, because we covered that touch hole on the back, when we pull that sponge out, we've created a vacuum. So fire needs air, fuel, heat. We took away the air. So we've created a vacuum, so that further extinguishes the sparks, makes the gun safer. Now this powder is going to be run up to the front left position. They're going to put it down the barrel. That sponge ram gets flipped around to the rammer end. They're going to ram the powder all the way to the back, followed by whatever we would be firing. So now the gun is loaded. We need to prime it to get it ready to fire. The back right position now has two ways to do that. If we have time, the cannon crews would make what are called quick fire quills or priming quills. Think of a tin or a brass tube with a sharp point on the end. We'll fill that with gunpowder and have some a little cap at the top with some powder on it to take the flame. If we have those, that's metal with a sharp point. We can just put that down the touch hole and it's going to pierce the bag and make contact with the gunpowder. If we ran out of those or couldn't make them, they have a brass pick that they will go down the touch hole with, pierce that bag open to expose the gunpowder. Then the cannoneers would just take loose powder and fill that touch hole to make the fuse. So a couple different ways we can do that. Now the gun is ready to fire. With that, the gun commander will make sure the gun is aimed at the proper elevation. They will raise their sword in the air to let the rest of the gun commanders know they're ready to fire. At the command to fire, I will say fire and drop the sword. This implement here on the back right has some rope wrapped around that stick. That stick is called a lint stock. It's about 3 feet long, so when we fire the cannon, we're going to stand outside of the wheels. When you fire a cannon, it recoils, so we don't want to get run over. So they'll be outside of the wheels with that 3 foot long stick. They will touch off the cannon at the drop of the sword. And that's how that cannon is loaded and fired. It took a while to explain all that, but because we have a crew of 5 operating this gun, the gun commander on the set, we're going to do 2 shots. The first shot, I'm going to call out each step. It's called by the numbers. And you'll kind of get an idea with the process. That's how a cannon crew is trained. But then on the second shot, I'm just going to say load. Each cannon crew member knows what to do, what step, when to do it. So they'll do it. Everything goes pretty well. It should be about 15 seconds before that next shot. So a cannon can be loaded and fired pretty quickly. And it just so happens when we talk about the musket demonstration, muskets can be loaded and fired in about 15 seconds. The only difference is a cannon is firing about 24, 26 small balls, equivalent to a company of infantry every 15 seconds at 600 yards. A musket's effective range is about 200 yards. So cannons are very effective. With that, and I don't know, what do you think of them down there on the right? I mean, it's kind of high, just a little bit to the right. On the other side of the tree will be good. Okay. All right. It's pretty loud. You heard it already. So when I drop that sword, that's when we're going to fire it. So be ready for that shot. Fire twice. And after that, feel free to come up and ask your question. Kingsbury's, take care. By the numbers. Advance worm. Search piece. Advance sponge. 10 vent. Sponge piece. Handle an advanced cartridge. Charge piece. Ram cartridge. Prime. Alright, ready to fire? You plug your ears. Take care. Fire! Fire!
Let's focus on the camera.
Take care. Park. Transfer. Search bait.
Cool.
Like a smaller gun.
Red sponge.
I think this is like a 3 pounder or something.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's not
Right.
hard to try.
There you have it. 3-pounder cannon. Like I said, feel free to come up, ask questions. We got the camp.
That was cool.
Yes,